Hey everybody, this is Evan with the Grainiac, coming back at you with another video on how to make some great homemade beef jerky. This is a eye of round. This one has the trimming still on it, so I gotta trim it up. Got this for about $3.50 a pound at my local restaurant depot. Trimming off all the fat and the silver seam. This 5¼ pound eye will get me about 4 pounds of jerky. So I figure 4 pounds of jerky for $25. It's not a bad break. I think jerky is probably around $25–30 a pound right now in the stores, and this stuff you can make yourself. You can use an oven, you can use a dehydrator. I'm trying a different recipe after reading the comments from my previous videos. I'm going to try using some Worcestershire sauce instead of soy sauce. So everybody said to try that, so here I am. I've never done that before, but that's a great thing about this. Being relatively cheap, you can kind of play around with your recipes. I could do 2 batches, but I'm just going to do it all one flavor. 4½ pounds of meat split up into 2 different flavors. Wouldn't be too bad. The base is the same. I'll put the recipe up, but you always go with about a teaspoon of salt per pound, half of that in sugar, 1/8 of a teaspoon of cure, pink number 2 cure, per pound, and pretty much play with the rest. You just want enough water in there to make sure it's going to submerge all the meat. As you see, I have garlic, I have some cayenne, liquid smoke at the end. I'm cutting along the grain with my meat until the very end. I do go across the grain for some less chewy pieces. The kids seem to like that. It doesn't take as much to chew it. And I can tell you, after cooking this jerky, it was delicious. That Worcestershire sauce gives it a little bit of a different zip than just the soy sauce. So definitely be doing that. And that's what it looks at the end cut when you cut across the grain. So when you cook it up, it just breaks off a little easier in the mouth. It's not as chewy. So here we are with the seasonings. I did break open the dry hickory smoke that I have from the meat market days. Comes out in clumps, but I just powder it up. I did coarse ground sea salt just because that's what I had on hand. After it dilutes in the water, it's the same thing as salt. Again, half of that in sugar. Go with some black pepper, and all this I'm not really measuring out. I can just eyeball it for what I want for 4½ pounds of meat. But that's a tablespoon I'm using, so you guys can kind of figure how much I'm putting in there. But I suggest just making the jerky that you want to make. Since my kids eat this, I can't make it very spicy. And you can always add dry spices to your finished product. I've done that a lot, and it works out really well. Put it in a plastic shopping bag with a little bit of water and shake up your spices in there to give it a good covering after it's all cooked. This I put in a dehydrator overnight. Took about 7 hours, and it was just about perfect. Let it cool down, cut it up into chunks, brought a bunch into work. The guys loved it. Mix, 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 mix. You want to make sure that cure gets into all the meat and have it cure for about at least 3 hours. Liquid smoke after done mixing for a while. Then I'm going to be laying it out on the dehydrator. Make sure your pieces don't touch. There will be some shrinkage, so if they do touch a little bit, they'll pull away from each other eventually. Cover it up. Put it in the fridge for a few hours. And here's my Nesco dehydrator. It'll fit about 5 pounds of meat, and I have less than that, so I should be fine. Some of my pieces are a little bit thicker, but even they dried up pretty well, so you can go not much thicker than what you see there. I do have some other videos of making hamburger jerky where I just use a 90-10 grind hamburger, season that up, form it, cut it, and then lay that out in my dehydrator. And that turns out really well too. Some people prefer that to the what you'd call dried beef steaks. And as you can see, I got most of the fat off, if not all of it. So very lean pieces of meat. You don't want to bite into any chunks of fat at the end of this. You already put in all the work, you might as well cut off all the fat. And here's the finished product. Nice dry. You have some beef jerky. Nice long strips. And then I'll show you what it's like all cut up. But if you have any other suggestions for flavors or different techniques, let me know, and like, share, and subscribe.